And now for our first keynote speaker, give a warm SDSU welcome to 7-time Team USA Olympic medalist. That's one thing, let's hear it. Author, let's hear it for author. Entrepreneur, let's hear it for that. And most importantly, and mother, Amanda Beard. Thank you very much.
Oh, it feels good to sit.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Stephen. You took my entire intro. Welcome, everybody. As you already are sitting here, 6th Annual Women in Leadership Conference. We're so happy to have you here, and I'm so honored to be here with Amanda Beard, decorated athlete, 7-time Olympic medalist, New York Times bestselling author, mom. Can we just say, like, overall badass? Like, let's go with that.
I don't know.
So we talked to the students before this event, and we asked them, you know, what are some of the things that you want to hear from our speakers? And overwhelmingly this year, a lot of the topics that kept coming up were authenticity, confidence, mental health. So that's kind of the basis of where we're going to go with this conversation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So let's go get right into it. So swimming, can you talk about where you started?
Yeah, well, not too far from here. So I grew up in Orange County, so in Irvine, and my mom wanted me to learn how to swim to be water safe. So she got me in the pool when I was 6 months old. Little did they know, though, that I'd become completely obsessed and dedicated to that sport. By the time I was 13 years old, I was on the USA national team. By the time I was 14, I was competing in my very first Olympics, and then competed in 4 Olympics total with seven Olympic medals, and just had a lot of fun.
Wait, 6 months old, you were in the water?
Yes, I know. You have a 9-month-old, so
I
gotta get
her
started.
In the water.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the best time to start. You know, in Southern California, we have so many pools and the beach, and you know, just so much access to water. So it's really important to be water safe. If you can't tell, that's what I've dedicated my life to. So, yeah. So my parents started that off with us at a very young age.
Okay. Wow. What's wonderful. So, okay. So when did it turn from, you know, interest in swimming, this is fun, to, oh, I'm competing, you know, competing, you know, on travel and competitively?
Yeah. So I think I was about 12. I started training year round. Do we have any athletes out here? Oh, yay. I love it. Any swimmers? Oh, yay. I love that. Okay. Swimmers work out a lot. So when I was about 12, I started practicing about 9 times a week, which is a lot.
There's only 7 days in the week.
I know. Lots of early mornings. And it never gets easier. And it never gets easier to jump in a freezing cold pool. I don't know about you guys. I never got easier. So, but I was about 12 years old when I really started to ramp up my swimming career. And then by the time I was 13, just kind of really took off, and I never really slowed down until I retired for the most part.
Wow, that's a story, right?
It was fun though. When you love something so much, it's like a fun adventure. Although there's lots of bumps along the way, but I absolutely loved and adored my swimming career.
So let's go to your first Olympics, and you know, first gold medal or first medal win. So 14 years old, you're on the podium. 14 years old, everybody. I don't know. Repeat that. So 14 years old, you're receiving your first medals as an Olympian. Can you describe that moment and you know, take us back to that?
Yeah. So when I try to like recall that moment and everything that was going on, it's fuzzy because it's, you know, such a part of my childhood, mostly for the, you know, and it's also very awkward to be standing on an awards podium in front of that many people in the stands, and it's like tons of cameras in your face. And then when you're 14 years old, you're like, what do I do? And then you're like, do I sing the national anthem? Do I just stand here? What do I, you know? So lots of different emotions going through. Just I was really lucky to have a lot of family members at a lot of my big meets. That Olympics in 1996 was in Atlanta, so it was our, you know, in our home country. So we had lots of fans and my whole family. So I just waved to them, just like, completely dorked out up there.
Yeah, do you ever look back at those photos and go like, oh gosh? Like,
Of course, don't we all? Yeah.
14 years old. Oh
I
gosh.
got way too many of those memories though that like come back to haunt me.
So you
So
kind of alluded to this, right? So you're just like thrown in, right? Media and cameras and news reports, and overnight you're just a household name because it's the Olympics. Do you feel like you were prepared for
not
that?
at all. No, not at all. So what they do at the Olympics after you win your medals, they kind of rush you off into a room where the media is waiting for you, which can be, it's not that big of a deal, but at 14, I really felt like, what am I doing here? How am I supposed to possibly answer these questions? And it's media from all over the world. And sometimes there are some very interesting questions that get thrown your way. So when you're 14 and getting those questions thrown your way, it can be very challenging on how to answer them. The one question that I remember specifically from the 1996 Olympics when I was 14, I won 2 silver medals and a gold medal at that Olympics. And after winning one of my silvers, went into the media room to talk about winning the silver, and I was so excited and yay. And one person asked me how it felt to lose. And it was that moment where, like you get just the wind knocked out of your sails and you're just like, so I didn't dawn on me that that people could think a silver was losing. I was so proud of it. But I was 14, so I believed it. So I believed that I let down my country and my coaches and family and friends. And it took me a really long time to recover from that one question. I became a lot stronger because of that, but that was kind of one of those moments in my life that sticks in my brain. Although in that room, along with all that one question, there were hundreds of wonderful questions asked, but of course I don't remember any of them. So we do that, I think, as humans. We really fixate on sometimes that negativity instead of all those positive things that are thrown your way.
Yeah, so let's kind of go along those same lines too. So you win your medals and your household name, and it's, publicly it seems like you're continuing to win and see success. Could you share with us maybe some of the things that were going on behind the scenes and how you were coping with
Yeah,
that?
I mean, there were a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I'm kind of like a goofy person. I like to have fun, but there's definitely the side, I think, of everyone that you don't truly see. And I felt like I kept up this persona and this image for when I was in front of cameras or doing interviews and things like that, where I'd just be like, oh, I love it, I'm blessed, everything's wonderful. And then I'd go away and I'd be at home and I'd be struggling with injuries. I'd be struggling with my body image issues. My parents went through a big divorce. Just, day-to-day things that you go through with relationships and breaking up with boyfriends, stuff like that. And I just kept going into more of like a introvert world and darker and darker, and just wanting to kind of pull away from people more and more. Especially, when I was about 16 all the way up to about, I'd say 23 or 24 years old was a really tough time for me emotionally, physically, just mentally, everything.
So, the spotlight on mental health, and as mentioned at the top of the hour, like that's a huge thing for Gen Z, for everybody, athletes too. And I think that's been a little bit more common to kind of hear athletes come out and talk about mental health struggles. You were really open and have been an advocate for mental health.
Yeah.
Can you share sort of a little deeper into like what got you to that place to kind of come out and start talking about it? Because I know you went through a lot, and I think there's a lot of people that can relate to some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those moments where I had a friend who was a writer. She wrote for the Orange County Register, and then she went over to write for the New York Times, and she came out to my house in Tucson, and we sat down and we just started talking. And she was one of those people that, when you meet someone and just feel like so like relaxed with them and you can just like spill everything, and she'd covered my whole entire career, and I just started spilling all this stuff to her, and she's sitting there, she's taking notes, and she's taking notes and looking at me, and we spent like 5 or 6 hours talking, and she looks at me at the end of it and she's like, "This is a book." And I was like, "No, you're crazy. No way, Jose. That's my like inner, like deepest, darkest secrets. And there's no way I would ever want anyone to know that." And I was still competing at the time. So I didn't want my competitors to hear that kind of stuff about myself either. Cause I was like, no, they'll use it against me. They'll think I'm weak. And, like just kind of wanting to keep up a tough persona. I mean, she's like, "No," she's like, "Trust me. Like this is so huge. The amount of people that you can change their lives or touch, and this would be amazing." And I mean, it took a while. It wasn't like okay, no problem, but we did start to work on putting together like the material for what a book might look like. But I did tell her from that moment, I said, well, if we do this, we're going full steam ahead, right? Like I'm going to put everything in it and nothing's off topic, because I don't want to just put something out there and be like, look at how great, like I won medals and broke world records. This is so fantastic, all these opportunities. But it came at a price, and it came with me falling down a lot. And I didn't want to lie to the youth of sports that I was, going out and talking to. I wanted them to see, hey, you're not alone in your journey. And it's totally normal for you to have these emotions and these roller coasters. And that was the whole purpose behind, putting that book out. It was a 3-year process of putting it together, and actually then before it was released, but it was fun.
Were you at all nervous about the reception of the book and the honesty? And, what was that like back 10 years ago when it came out?
It was awful. Obviously there were moments that were really great, but I had a lot of people being very cruel to me. I had death threats being sent to me, and people showing up at book signings and saying some pretty disgusting things my way. And I didn't quite understand it, because I was like, but this has nothing to do with you. Like, this is my life. I don't know why you care so much about my journey. All I can think of is those people must be struggling as well. I was really lucky. My husband took all my privileges away from my social media. So lucky. But he didn't want me to have to like see those comments, and he wanted me to really focus on the positivity and the people that I was reaching, because I would go to book signings, and while I'd have one person yelling at me about, why would you do this and talk about that, I'd have another person come up to me and say, "I've been living in a eating disorder clinic for the last year. I'm down to 80 pounds. Like, I read your book. It touched me. Like, thank you so much for putting that out there. I'm a former athlete." And I was like, well, screw that negative comment. I'm focusing on this. Obviously that's easy to say, really hard to do, but I really focused on trying to channel all my energy in that direction.
And how do you feel like you've been able to heal from maybe those, past challenges and what you've described, and even the challenges that came after your book?
Yeah.
How have you kind of healed through that?
Well, it's always a healing process, right? So I'd never have felt like, okay, I'm good, let's go. I feel like I'm just always kind of in the process of trying to discover how to be better and how to be more positive and how to be happier, and how, because that's life, and life's going to throw all this randomness in your way, and then you figure out how to like bob and weave and navigate through that. So and I learned so much from the people that I meet and encounter, and the things that they've gone through in their lives, and love to hear their stories. And having that support system around you is huge. I have amazing people around me, with my family and my friends, my husband, that if you don't have that core, it's going to be a really difficult road for you to navigate.
So that kind of leads into, we have a lot of student athletes, and students too, just, not just athletics, what advice would you give to our students, this generation,
Yeah.
if they're struggling with similar issues, on how to kind of best move forward?
I mean, I think the best thing to do is to find those people, right? Find that support system around you, that crew. And it doesn't have to be this like elaborate group of people. It can be one person, but that one person can be so huge and helping continue to guide, support, and love you through all those bumps. There's those people, and I had a really hard time of like speaking up for myself and kind of discussing the things that I was going through at the moments I was actually going through them. So finding your voice and being okay with voicing it to people, and you're gonna come across people who are like, oh, you're dramatic, you're overreacting, like brush it off. That's not your person, right? That's not your support crew. So find those people that are like, I hear you, I'm here for you, and then you can bounce and support each other back and forth, and that's super important. So the people who are dismissive, then I always I'll be friends with them, but I'm gonna keep them here.
Do you think that there has been, or in your opinion, how has mental health in athletics evolved since you were maybe 14 at the Olympics?
Oh, it's evolved a lot. It still has a really long way to go, but I think you're hearing more people actually talk about it, make a stand for it, not succumbing to just being like, well, I'm an athlete, so I'll just push through because that's what you do. Understanding that's okay to take a little time out, reflect on where you are, where you want to be going, and if you're in the right state of mind and where you should be to get here, right? And sometimes it takes some really big changes in your life if you want to make sure that you're going in the right direction. So, teammates are really important, coaches are really important, teachers are really important. All those people are super important with helping guide you in the right direction. So don't be afraid to kind of tap into those resources.
So you are a mom now.
Yes.
2 beautiful children.
Totally cute. I got mom goggles on. So.
Yeah, they're super cute.
Yeah.
My child is here too. She's back there. I see her walking around.
She's so adorable.
9-month-old. So can you talk a little bit about how, being a mom has maybe shifted some of your, mindset and looking at instilling what, characteristics in your daughter and your son, that so they don't make,
oh my
similar
goodness,
mistakes.
Stressful. Whole nother level of stress added into there. And they're growing up in such a different world than I grew up in, with a lot of different challenges with social media and just easy access for people to come at you with that negativity. My son is a lot better at kind of bouncing things off, and he's just I don't care, I just want to play sports, so he doesn't want anything to do. The only thing he wants to do on his phone is watch YouTube baseball plays and look up his favorite baseball players. Other than that, he's I don't care. Girls can text him, his best friends can text him, he's eh. Where my daughter is so much more heavily influenced by everything that's going on around her. So she's the one that's gonna be more influenced with what she's seeing. And so she's gonna need a lot more guidance and the right people around her to make sure that she stays on that path and has that support system around her. Because I can see her kind of going, oh, they're cool, and going in that direction. They're both very young still, but I think it starts when they're young, and having that good open communication with them and discussing the harder topics at any age, so that when they become teenagers or when they're in college, there's still that open communication. I always joke around with the friends, if you can't have those conversations with your 3-year-old, it's not going to magically happen when they're 16, because 16-year-olds don't want to talk to you. So you have to start it at a young age.
Yeah. How much of your career do your kids know?
That's a great question. I do go to their schools, because their teachers always want me to come into class, bring my medals, and talk about, especially when the Olympics are going on, and talk about, oh, look at the Olympics, and kind of behind the scenes and stuff like that. So I think they know a little bit about it. They're kind of more, it's mom, Mom. Like when I'll talk about, well, when I was an athlete, this is the stuff, and they're like, ugh. What do you know?
Like, little do you know.
A little. This is what I do know.
And your
Please.
daughter is a swimmer, right?
My daughter is a swimmer, a basketball player, and a softball player.
And she likes swimming.
She likes swimming, yes.
But you were talking to me earlier about how, you don't want the pressures of being compared to you. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, so I was everyone's like, oh, are your kids going to be swimmers? I was like, no. They're going to know how to swim. I want them to be like really strong swimmers because we all are big surfers. We do a lot of water sports. But I didn't want, because I knew if my kids go into swimming, they're just going to be constantly hearing about me, my career, and being compared to me. And I want them to have their own lives and their own paths. But my daughter was like, I really want to join the swim team. And I was like, oh, you're so cute. Okay. But I mean, I'm not going to tell them yes or no of like what they can do. But I just knew there was going to be some challenges. So my daughter's 8 years old, and people are already like comparing her strokes and everything that she's doing to me. And I'm like, she's 8. She might quit in like 6 months. I have no idea. So I'm like, it's okay.
No, that's great. And so talk about your new venture with Beard Coast Swimming and the mission of that organization and its purpose.
Yeah, so I started a swim school, learn a swim school in Washington State. So we built out our own facility with really nice warm pools for all those little babies. So, I mean, the idea is just the more, that we can get kids in the water, become water safe, and learn how to swim and just have a healthy relationship with the water, the better it is for everyone. So it's such a great life skill to have. Whether or not you want to choose swimming and smelling like a chlorine for the rest of your life, or if you just want to we're in California, so if you want to surf or be a paddleboarder, or you want to go scuba diving, snorkeling, like there's so many things that you can do if you know how to swim. In Washington State, it's very different than California. There's access to pools and programs everywhere down here, where in Washington I have 2,000 kids on my wait list to get in. So there's not enough pools, so there's such a need. And so we're trying to give that access to all those kids and create more places for them to be able to learn, so that kids are not growing up struggling or not knowing how to swim.
It's really important. Yeah. I love that. So can you take yourself back to college-aged Amanda and tell us, something that when you reflect back, you wish you would have been able to tell yourself?
Yeah, well, I think we touched on this a little bit, but just really finding my voice better, being my own advocate. I was really horrible for speaking up for myself and the needs what I needed. I was more so like, no, I don't want to bug anyone. I don't want people to like go out of the way. I don't want people to worry about me. I don't want, so I felt like I would be a burden on someone if I even said like, I want a sandwich for lunch. I was horrible at speaking up for myself. And so that trickled into so many different avenues for my life. And if I could go back, I would say, well, go ahead. What's the worst thing that can happen, right? You're gonna make things easier for yourself if you kind of actually speak up and say what you need. Because I tell my kids this, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm gonna say no, no, you can't have a sandwich, right? But on those bigger details and topics, you're gonna weed out the people who shouldn't be in that support system. You're gonna find friendships, you're gonna connect deeper with the people who do listen to what those needs are. So definitely, I wish I had more confidence and spoke up for myself.
Do you think a lot of that too has to do with, you're 14 and, at the Olympics and household name and people knew who you were, and then you kind of grew up really fast and then went to college, your life happened really quickly, I guess, is my point. So do you feel like if circumstances were different and you weren't an Olympic swimmer, that maybe things would have been different?
I don't know. I know swimming, sports can put a lot of pressure on you to be able to perform, and athletes, I feel like, are perfectionists. They really are self-critical and want to be up here and are striving to be the best, which can carry a major weight on your shoulders. But at the sense, swimming was my outlet, you know? So I struggled in school, like I had a really difficult time academically. So swimming was the place where like I could go and I could dive in the water, and you can't really, I mean, you can hear this sometimes, the coach is screaming at you. It's a lot easier to block out in the pool, but you know, I could just swim laps and kind of just like let everything go. So it's like, okay, it's being an athlete is stressful, but it's also how I like manage my stress. So it's a weird kind of relationship, I guess, that it has. I think if I wasn't an athlete, I think I would have carried more stress because I would have fixated on all those other things and wouldn't have had any outlet. Yeah.
Good point. Well, it's really clear from everything we've talked about that you're super accomplished and continuing to, accomplish things as you're moving through life as a mom and entrepreneur. What's next?
Great question. Well, we are in the process of trying to build out a couple more locations to get more kids in the pool. I work on the board of directors of getting scholarships for kids for all over the country so that they can have swim lessons in their communities. So we have scholarships that pay for them. So I'm working really hard with that. I work with a lot of older kids too, like the swim teams and stuff in Washington State. So lots of swimming stuff.
Stayed on that. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tracks. So final question from me, at least. What's one takeaway that you would hope, everyone that's tuned in, as mentioned from the beginning, confidence, mental health, authenticity. What's something that, final thoughts that you want to share with our students that are tuning in?
Find that support system, like find your crew, find your people. It's just, there's no way to achieve this in life without them. So really weed out and find out who those important people are in your life.
Great advice, that's for sure. So that ends my part of the questions, but wait, there's more. So we're gonna start with some rapid fire questions, but while I'm doing that, if you have a question for Amanda, there's microphones on both sides. So if you'd like to start lining up, I'll ask her some questions and I'll go to you. So please don't be shy.
And you can ask anything too. Yeah. So like if it's swimming related, non-swimming related.
We got to get the swimmers to ask some questions.
They're like,
nope. But while we're doing that, and
I don't have cap and goggles on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So while we're doing that and waiting for students to kind of step up, we'll go through some rapid fire questions. Are you ready? So are you a morning or night person?
Morning.
Like how early?
Early. Well, on a normal day, like 5-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's early. That's mom early. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite podcast?
There's a swimmer who does a podcast. His name is Brett Hawk. So I listen to his a lot.
Cool. Okay.
So I dork out on swimming stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
So just keep the theme going. What about your favorite workout music?
It's the opposite of what most people would probably use for workout music, but I listen to more like Johnny Cash or Paul Simon, stuff like that. That's a little more chill.
I like that vibe. Yeah. Cheat meal?
Everything. No, but I love like a good like chocolate chip cookie with ice cream and like pizza and just go for it. Yeah.
You played a lot of sports growing up. So if you weren't a swimmer, what would you be?
Well, my favorite sport in general is baseball. I absolutely love baseball. So I would like to think that I would play some softball. In my dream world, I'd be a tennis player, but I'm awful at it. So I'd say tennis, surfing, softball.
Okay, yeah.
I'd do them all.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good variety. And if you had a superpower, what would it be?
I'd definitely be able to teleport.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm gonna need point A to point B real fast.
Let's go.
Okay, so I'll head over to this mic if you want to ask the question.
Hi.
I have two questions. One question's a little serious. The other question's kind of fun.
Okay.
First question is, what quote do you live by?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. That's hard. So I did like autograph cards, like sign them for kiddos and stuff like that back in the day, and I just was always carpe diem, right? Like, so seize the day. So I guess I'd have to just stick with that because I haven't come up with a new one, but I need to. But anything that's just like positive, I guess, just positive vibes.
And then second fun question. If you could choose any song that would be your theme song, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, we just did this the other night in our house. We were picking theme songs, like what's our walkout song? I didn't get to vote on what my song was. They voted for me, but it'd be it would be John Bon Jovi's, or Bon Jovi, but he was John Bon Jovi then, Blaze of Glory. Because my favorite movies are, I love Westerns and I love Young Guns. I don't no one's probably watched that in this room, but I love all Westerns. But so, Blaze of Glory. You probably don't know that one, huh?
I'll have to pull it up again.
You can find it.
Thank you.
Google it. YouTube. All right, we'll go over to this mic.
And
Hi.
someone from the Zoom, her name is Midori Dobson. She's tuning in from Sacramento, and not a question, but she wanted to say that she swam competitively for 11 years, and her coach recommended your book to her when she was about 16. It totally changed her perspective on her swim career, and she says thank you.
Oh, absolutely, welcome. So it's like little things like that where it's just like, and I know everyone says that, like, well, if I can just change one but it's true, like if someone enjoyed it, and it could be one sentence from the book that maybe someone enjoyed or related to, then it's like, okay, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Thank you.
And then I have a question personally as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a college senior, and I know me and many of my friends that are seniors as well are in this transitional period.
Yep.
We're kind of struggling going into the real world. I know being an Olympian, I can imagine, is on a whole nother level. Was it difficult for you to transition post-Olympic life? And can you share a little bit of advice about that?
Absolutely. It is really difficult. So, and I see it with a lot of athletes, a lot of professional athletes too, where that you get to this point where you're like, you kind of just keep going at it, like, competing, because you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So, like for me, as I kind of stopped and reflected and kind of was trying to figure out, well, what am I passionate about? What can I see myself actually wanting to invest all my time in? And I was like, swimming. I love swimming. How do I do this on a level that I feel like rewarded for? Not rewarded, but like felt like that I really wanted to kind of wake up every single day and commit to it. I had my kids. I had my son when I was still competing and training. So he learned to swim at my friend's swim school. And I was like, this is amazing. Like as a parent, I loved it. And so then from that moment, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. It took me 7 years from researching to the point where we actually opened the doors to our facility. So it wasn't like this, like, I'm doing that, here I go, right? So I committed to it, and I just like went for it. And I had a lot of people like tell me, no, you can't do that, sweetheart. Like, you don't know what you're doing, So it's like one of those like, no, I can do this. So finding that passion, something that you really can see yourself kind of putting your heart and soul into, and then just going for it, no matter how many people around you are telling you anything, right? There are going to be the people who like, yeah, let's do this, and people are like, good luck. So have fun with it, though. You got to have fun with it, and find something that's true to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We'll go on this mic.
Okay. I actually had a very similar question to Lauren, so I sat down for a second. But I guess I really wanted to ask more so about sort of like the emotional transition from, like when you retired from being an Olympian.
Yeah.
Because I know, to say like, oh, I'm an Olympian, I like practice for the Olympics, I like train for the Olympics, that can become like a huge part of one's like, identity.
Absolutely.
So how did you process losing that sort of identity once you actually like retired and went into different like, channels?
Yeah, and I'm super happy that you brought that up. One of the biggest things that I talk to, I work with a lot of young athletes all over the country, and that's the one thing that I always talk to them about is swimming should not be your identity. So you shouldn't be sitting around the dinner table and that's the only thing that you've got going for you, right? So it comes down to parents too. Like my parents, we didn't sit around the dinner table and just talk about swimming. My sisters would have been bored out of their minds. There's other things going on. So really having hobbies and having interests and having a life outside of your sport, your job, whatever you do. So you have those things that interest you and that you love. Because it could go away, right? Things change, your path changes, you move, this, that, you know, so you want to have something else that you feel connected to and that you love. For me, it was just, I love sports, you know, so I loved, like, I grew up surfing and we're skating, snowboarding, dirt bikes, like we loved all that kind of stuff. So I had like a good balance in my life with going and like not just being in a pool all the time. I would go and be at the beach or just doing a lot of different things athletically. And so I just always felt like if swimming wasn't there, I had all these other things that kind of filled up that same bucket. So, but yeah, just making sure that you're just not, this is who I am and I have nothing else going on for me. So hobbies. And they can be silly hobbies too. It doesn't have to be anything like super serious or crazy.
Thank you. And then back to the Zoom.
Yes, so we have another Zoom question from Jennifer Brooks from Zoom, and she said, what is one of the biggest obstacles you faced on your professional journey, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, my goodness, let me think about that. So I, after the 96 Olympics, and I'll go through this really quick so it's not long and drawn out, but so if you saw me compete in 96, I was 14. I was about 5'2" and about 95 pounds. I was tiny, like as far as an athlete goes. The year and a half after the Olympics, I went from 5'2" to 5'8", 95 pounds to about 125 pounds. So I had a huge growth spurt, went through puberty, and everything changed. For an athlete, that can be devastating because your body's complete, you don't know how to use it basically. So you have to relearn everything. So the couple years after the 1996 Olympics, again, really till the 2004 Olympics is when it all came back together. But were some of like the darkest, hardest moments for myself because it was almost like I hated who my body was because it wasn't working the way that it was supposed to work or how I thought it was supposed to work. So I was like, why are you doing this to me? Come on. But you know, my wingspan changed, everything changed. So when I would dive into the pool, and it used to feel really easy and graceful, I'd dive in the pool and I'd feel heavy and like nothing just clicked and I couldn't feel the water right. And it just was like, so like disconnected from it. I actually went 7 years of my career without swimming a best time in my best stroke, so 7 years of basically like not meeting that potential.
Yeah.
And I tell this story to young athletes all the time too. So from the 1996 Olympics till I competed in the 2003 World Championships, I didn't do a best time. And in that 2003 World Championships, I ended up breaking a world record. So it was worth it, right? So it was absolutely worth going through those 7 years of struggling and trying to put things back together. But it would have been really easy just to walk away and quit. But I didn't, and I don't know how I didn't. I think I tried to a lot. But I kind of stuck with it. I fell a lot, lots of crying, lots of dark times in those 7 years. But I'm so proud that I stuck with it and figured it out and learned how to kind of pick myself back up and put myself back together because it really did pay off.
Yeah, it seems like you probably had to change a lot of your training, right?
Had to change
You were an
everything,
Olympic
yeah.
gold medalist, and then you changed, and then it was like I have to completely change the way I was building my body, which is probably terrifying, like square one almost, right?
Completely square one. I had to completely like relearn how to do all my strokes again and stuff. And I know that when I'm talking swimmer talk, no, like you guys understand, but like rebuilding and learning how to feel that water again and just kind of, oh gosh, it's not easy.
Yeah, I think my final question, and I'll wrap it up. Oh, we have one more. Sorry. Oh, we got one. Here we go. Last question.
Yeah. I wanted to know, once you figured out that you wanted to open the swimming schools, what was your first step after that?
Well, so lots of researching, right? So lots of researching, and then it was starting to kind of put together my business plan, kind of actually figuring out like, a lot of it is like, I compare it to making like a Thanksgiving dinner and you have one oven, right? Like normal humans, one oven. So Thanksgiving dinner, one oven, and you have to like coordinate everything around cooking the turkey and all the sides. So it's like finding your location and getting like if you have to get a bank loan or your investors, and getting everything all lined up perfectly so it all aligns. You can start your build out, and then, so it's kind of like chaos, and it changes every single day, and something will throw something new at you one day, and you need to give them new information. But the first step is finding like what you want to do, right? You're passionate about, and then kind of set like your ideal timeline and all the information that you think you need. There's a lot that you'll discover that you do need, and then start just going and fumbling through on the way, which is fine to do.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, learned so much from you. I know our students and audience learned as well. And find your people, find your support system, and advocate for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to thank you once again for joining us and sharing with us your story. We admire all of your leadership and your continuing entrepreneurship. So thank you. And one final round of applause for Amanda.
All right. Thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful Women in Leadership with whatever you guys continue to do for the rest of the day. Hopefully you go see more of the speakers, because I know they're going to be awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much, everyone.
you.